Aloha and good afternoon. You're watching This Is Now. First today, we are exactly 8 weeks away from Election Day, and the two presidential candidates are set to square off tonight for their first and potentially only presidential debate.
Natalie Brand is in Philadelphia with more on what the candidates have been doing to prepare and what voters say they want to hear.
The stage is now set for the first face-off and meeting between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. The debate taking place in the hotly contested battleground state of Pennsylvania, where voters will be closely watching. What are you expecting from this debate?
I'm expecting, hopefully, answers. I really would like to see what both candidates are able to bring to a public stage directly addressing our nation.
And with Harris only recently becoming the Democratic nominee, voters say they want to hear more about her policy proposals. Tony DiIulio, an independent, says he will be listening for substance and style.
Really what's important is somebody that can articulate their ideas, listen, respond well. I want to see civility. That's one of the things I feel like we've been missing a lot of recently.
On Capitol Hill, Trump allies advised him to steer clear of personal attacks.
I think President Trump would be wise to explain how he would change the country, stay away from the personal stuff, talk about policy differences.
Democratic leaders expect Harris will lean into her experience as a prosecutor to go after Trump and detail differences between the two.
A stark contrast in two candidates. One who's a seasoned prosecutor who is going to make her case, and one who is a felon.
The 90-minute debate will have no studio audience. Candidates are not allowed pre-written notes on stage, and microphones will be muted when it's not their turn to speak. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Philadelphia.
And you can tune into the debate right here on KHNL starting at 2 p.m. Hawaii time. Coverage is provided by NBC. Again, there's a lot riding on this debate, as it could be potentially the only square-off between Harris and Trump as the race for the White House winds down. Stay with Hawaii News Now for all the latest developments in campaign 2024. In international news, the Israeli military said today it is highly likely that its forces killed an American woman during a protest in the occupied West Bank last week. The statement comes after a deadly airstrike struck a humanitarian area in Gaza that killed at least 40 people. NBC's Raf Sanchez has more from Tel Aviv.
The Israeli military says it carried out an airstrike in a so-called humanitarian zone near the Mediterranean coast in Gaza early this morning. They say they were targeting 3 senior Hamas commanders who were directly involved in the October 7th attack and were hiding among the civilian population of that camp. Israel's military says they took steps to reduce civilian casualties, including flying surveillance flights overhead and using precise munitions. But talk of precise weapons is hard to square with the absolutely enormous craters that our team saw on the ground inside of that camp. They say that around 20 tents were blown apart by these bombs, and they have met families where children have been killed and children have been badly wounded. It comes as Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Israeli forces need to fundamentally overhaul how they operate in the occupied West Bank following the killing of an American citizen. 26-year-old Aishinur Agi was killed on Friday during a protest. Israel's military releasing preliminary findings today, acknowledging it is most likely she was killed by Israeli fire. They say it was an accident, but eyewitnesses who were on the ground say she was not armed and that there was no reason for Israeli troops to open fire at the time. Her family says an Israeli military investigation is not enough, and they are calling on President Biden to launch an independent American probe. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
In Oregon, the man accused of killing a woman with Hawaii ties appeared in court today. This is new video just in of 27-year-old Bryce Schubert in Washington County Circuit Court. He is facing charges of second-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, and second-degree abuse of a corpse following the death of his neighbor, Melissa Jubain, last week. Jubain, whose husband is from Hawaii and just got married on Oahu 2 weeks ago, was reported missing on Wednesday. And early Saturday morning, police said they had found her remains and arrested Schubert in connection with her death. Meanwhile, it was an emotional night at Ridgewood View Park in Beaverton at the vigil for Jubain. The 32-year-old was a nurse and went to school at the University of Portland. Teachers and faculty shared their memories of her.
I first heard that she was missing on social media and just was taken aback and couldn't believe what was happening. She was just super supportive of her classmates. Engaged and happy to be in class and learning.
Schubert is being held without bail and is due back in court next Monday. And new at noon, we've learned from sources that the city's top emergency management official is stepping down. Hiro Toya has taken a job with FEMA in Oakland. Toya has been the face of the city's response to hurricanes and wildfires for several years now. He has been with the agency since 2011 and was elevated to director in 2019 ahead of the pandemic. We'll have more on this story in later editions of Hawaii News Now. A Colorado man is sentenced to more than 8 years in prison for cyberstalking and harassing his ex-girlfriend and her former partners while he was living here in Hawaii. 54-year-old John Hart created multiple online dating profiles in his ex-girlfriend's name, causing multiple men to appear at her workplace. Throughout the stalking, he hid his true identity by using multiple burner apps to generate dozens of fake phone numbers. He also sent messages to her, her family, and her then boyfriend, saying that he planned to kill, kidnap, and/or injure her. Following his prison sentence, Hart will have to serve 3 years of supervised release.
On Maui, an emotional day in the attempted murder trial of a man accused of beating an infant. 30-year-old Christian Rosette faces life in prison without parole for allegedly nearly killing his girlfriend's 11-month-old son in 2021. The jury heard from a police detective who recalled the boy's injuries and the emergency room doctor who called 911. They were both brought to tears.
Match with observations that you made.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Would you like a moment to?
No, I'm fine.
Yourself?
I observed the child laying on the bed with wires, just a diaper, a female seated to the right side of the bed, which was on her cell phone. I observed the child to have bruising on the forehead, the face, and eyelids and below the hairline.
The sergeant said when the child's mother, Passion Quirk, finally told police her boyfriend beat her son, she also had bruises on her face. Trial continues today. A Philippine televangelist accused of human trafficking and sex assault, including here in Hawaii, is in custody in the Philippines. Daryl Huff has more on the arrest of Apollo Kibuloy.
The arrest of megachurch leader Apollo Kibuloy, who came close to being apprehended in Hawaii years ago, ended up being one of the most dramatic law enforcement dramas in the Philippines. Thousands of Philippine police and military were met with a human blockade of Kibuloy's supporters when they came to arrest him 2 weeks ago at the huge Kingdom of Jesus Christ compound in Davao. Kibuloy and several aides finally surrendered early yesterday.
So to his credit, he was still displaying a modicum of leadership to his followers. Again, I will stress, it was a very, involved police action.
Kibuloy was a close friend of prior President Duterte and was critical of Marcos. Hawaii attorney Mike Green is on the church's American legal team.
He's been mentoring and being a pastor for over 3 million people, almost 200 cities, countries around the world. I've seen the work he's done. I've seen the Children's Joy Foundation. This is a horrible payback for what I believe is a political vendetta.
The church brought young girls as religious workers to Hawaii and Los Angeles to raise funds by selling Krispy Kreme donuts and other baked goods. In Hawaii, one young lady fled in 2015, claiming she'd been trafficked, beaten and forced to have sex with Quibeloy along with other young women and girls. She said church leaders retaliated by accusing her of sex assault of a minor. Honolulu prosecutors pursued the case for 4 years before finally dropping it in 2019.
Everything that she said just sounded like a cult, that she escaped. They'd shaved her head, they put her in a concentration, or they called it a re-education camp.
In 2018, Hawaii News Now was there when Quibeloy and his private jet were seized at the airport. On board was the head of his Hawaii operations, Felina Salinas, who was charged with trying to smuggle $300,000 in cash to the Philippines for Quibeloy. The charge was reduced, and Quibeloy went home.
I talked to the agents on my case, and they were extremely upset when they found out that Quibeloy's plane had been detained here and that he wasn't taken into custody.
The FBI raided church buildings in Los Angeles and indicted Quibeloy in 2021, along with Hawaii's Felina Salinas, who the FBI said played a key role in trafficking, controlling, and organizing sex partners for the pastor. The case has been waiting for Quibeloy's arrest, but it's not clear if the Philippines or the U.S. FBI will prosecute first. Salinas and other indicted church members are out on bail. Quibeloy has repeatedly denied the charges, even having me and another reporter charged with criminal libel in the Philippines. Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
The state's teachers union says they're hopeful an informal grievance meeting will answer questions about teacher paycheck delays. The union initiated the grievance after department leaders were unable to explain what caused the delays and repeatedly refused to turn over a list of affected teachers. Without that list, HSTA could not determine the full extent of the problem. Now the Department of Education is compiling all of the information. It's expected to be handed over to the Teachers Association by this Friday. Frustration and confusion after some Chinatown businesses got courtesy checks from the June blackouts while others didn't. Businesses are also waiting to get reimbursed for losses. Mahealani Richardson went to get answers from HECO.
Cindy's Lay Shop got a courtesy $500 check from HECO about 3 weeks ago after suffering back-to-back blackouts in June.
Just as a way to make peace, I suppose, work with that pilikia.
Other businesses didn't get a $500 check, and all merchants are still waiting for word if HECO will reimburse them for thousands in losses.
I expect to get reimbursed for the full amount, I hope.
We haven't gotten anything, the $500 check or reimbursement we put in for when the power came back in, the surge blew out my air conditioning panel for $2,500.
A HECO spokesperson told Hawaii News Now the $500 courtesy check is only for business customers who filed claims for the second and longer lasting outage, which started June 17th. If checks still haven't gone out, it might be a clerical mistake.
We have become aware that there may be a handful that we have missed, probably just due to clerical or human error. But, we're taking steps to address that and make sure that we get all those payments out to everybody who was eligible.
At the August Downtown Neighborhood Board meeting, HECO announced a community support package, including a moratorium on non-payment disconnections through mid-January 2025 and nonprofit donations.
We have committed and donated $25,000 to the Chinese Chamber of Commerce and the Chinatown Improvement District for support of the downtown community.
Chulan Schubert Kwok, a Chinatown advocate and a neighborhood board member, says the small mom and pop vendors need money now.
It is only for them to hush them up for any criticism that I'm not happy.
The idea is to, work with organizations who can help uplift Chinatown as a whole.
HECO says an investigation into the cause of the downtown outages is expected to wrap up soon. Then it can start looking at individual reimbursement claims.
Do you think you're ever going to get paid?
We'll see.
Well, HECO wouldn't say how soon, but says it hired a third-party engineering firm to help with the investigation and will report the results to its regulator, the PUC.
Beginning today, a new regulation from the Food and Drug Administration goes into effect, requiring all mammography facilities in the U.S. to notify patients of their level of breast density. That refers to the amount of fibrous and glandular tissue in a woman's breasts compared to fatty tissue. Doctors say the information could potentially save lives.
If a woman has dense breast tissue, it makes it so much more difficult for us to find that breast cancer. So it's sort of like looking into a cloudy sky. And when we're looking in the blue skies, we see everything very clearly. And when you're looking into the clouds, it's very difficult to find things.
Having dense breasts also increases a woman's risk of breast cancer. So experts encourage women who fall into that category to consider additional imaging tests such as a breast ultrasound or MRI. All right, let's take you live outside with one of our cameras across the nation. This is Philadelphia, where the temperature there is 79 degrees on this Tuesday. We're going to have a look at your local forecast with Jennifer Robbins after this quick break.
Hope you're having a beautiful Tuesday. We're tracking slightly muggy weather today with those light winds. Light winds are going to remain in the forecast at least for 2 more days. Transition back to trade winds coming our way, especially probably sometime Thursday night into Friday, and breezy by the weekend. Back to your typical windward Amalka showers. Right now we're tracking Kauai rain into the next couple of hours. Some pop-up showers. Sunrise was a beauty this morning at 6:16. Sunset tonight at 6:40. Slightly humid conditions will continue during the afternoon with some pop-up showers in the forecast, so we'll have to watch the radar. Right now we are expecting temperatures to rise into the 80s pretty quickly, and we'll have calm winds, so we'll have to sweat it out there. And you could actually see on Hawaii Island some Malka clouds, and we will be seeing some pop-up showers over the mountains at times, and maybe some heavy downpours here and there for a slight brief moment. But other than that, it is going to be nice to dip in the water on north-facing shores. We have a new swell to talk about at 5 to 7. West-facing shores 0 to 2, 1 to 3 in town, and 2 to 4 on east-facing shores. Just want to wish you blue skies and much aloha. You can see some pop-up showers for Tuesday into Wednesday. Back to beautiful trade wind weather as we stretch into the weekend.
On the next Spotlight Now, we spotlight Hawaii Island.
We'll be speaking with the Chief of Police along with leadership from the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority. Catch us at 1 o'clock Tuesday on K5.
In today's news from the feeds, a fight over a $70,000 engagement ring has made its way all the way to the Massachusetts Supreme Court. And the question at hand is who gets to keep the ring when an engagement is called off? Paul Burton has more from Boston.
The ring is either yours or it's mine.
It's supposed to be a symbol of love and commitment, but now a $70,000 engagement ring has become a bitter battle between a former couple and a case that has made its way to the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court.
And award the engagement ring and wedding band
back to Mr. Johnson.
According to court documents, Johnson bought the ring, one similar to this one, from Tiffany's in Boston, paying more than $70,000. Soon after, he called off the engagement because he says his bride-to-be was verbally abusive and thought she was cheating on him, which she denies.
She would have stayed. She would have stuck it out.
A trial court ruled in her favor, saying Johnson was at fault for calling off the engagement, and right now she gets to keep the ring. Johnson appealed the decision, and a Massachusetts appeals court ruled in his favor. Now it's up to the SJC to decide whether Massachusetts should follow other states where engagement rings are returned to the giver if an engagement is called off, regardless of who is at fault.
Who gets to keep the ring if we move to a no fault? Because the ring has been transferred in some respect.
So that if the marriage does not happen, the purchaser of the ring gets the ring back.
Why?
It's most equitable, Your Honor.
Arthur DeMillo is an independent appraiser and jeweler.
So my best understanding would be if the condition hasn't been met of the engagement, in other words, if the condition no longer exists, then the ring needs to be returned.
Shoppers in downtown Boston have varying opinions.
Oh, he called the wedding off.
He called the wedding off.
Oh, that's a tough one. I would give it back. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
I mean, she should give the ring back. It's not yours. There's no wedding.
Well, I believe the ring belongs to her because he gave it to her as a gift.
It belonged back to the man.
Why do you say that?
Because it's canceled. Everything is over.
The decision now lies in the hands of the Massachusetts SJC. No word yet on when a ruling is expected.
And move over ghosts and goblins. This year's most popular Halloween costumes could be more influenced by pop culture than traditional lore. According to Google Trends, Beetlejuice is among the top searches. Tim Burton's horror comedy sequel, Beetlejuice, just hit theaters and is already sparking costume inspiration. You can also expect to see a lot of Bad and Good Witches, which is an ode to the upcoming release of the movie adaptation of the Broadway musical Wicked. And breakdancer Reagan, who became a viral sensation after performing at the Olympics, is also another top search for costume ideas.
Politicians down under are looking to ban young children from using social media. Australia will be one of the first countries in the world to impose age restrictions on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Tina Kraus has the latest.
Australia's Prime Minister says there's nothing social about social media, and his government plans to set a minimum age for teenagers to use it.
I want to see kids off their devices and onto the footy fields and the swimming pools and the tennis courts. We want them to have real experiences with real people because we know that social media is causing social harm.
Australia will draw the line somewhere between 14 and 16 years old to prevent anyone younger from using social media platforms without their parents' permission.
You can see some crazy things that kids should not see on those platforms, so I think that's good.
But some experts warn the law could backfire, preventing younger kids from finding the support they need or driving them to use social media secretly, increasing the danger.
This is a global issue that governments around the globe are trying to deal with.
More than a dozen U.S. states are pushing for legislation to protect children from online harm, including bullying. Utah requires minors under 18 to get parental consent before using platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Australia hopes to become one of the first countries in the world to set age limits after an initial trial of age verification technology. But questions remain about whether a ban will be enforceable or effective. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
A 76-year-old Kentucky woman decided that now was the time to get her very first tattoo. The ALS patient brought an entourage with her to be part of the momentous occasion. Caleb Barnes shows us.
Getting a tattoo can be a big decision, but it's something 76-year-old Janice Redmond has talked about since the end of last summer.
Is this your first tattoo ever? Okay.
It's been a blessing to help take care of Janice, and it's just been really good that we could all get together and come and do something with her today.
Janice was diagnosed with ALS more than 4.5 years ago. When I first met Janice in April, she was scheduled to get at the end of May. After a few delays, Janice settled on a new design of the sun saying "Shine On" underneath.
Well, how was it? Not too bad?
She spends a lot of time outside. She loves the sun. If the sun is shining, she goes to the courtyard.
Janice wasn't the only one getting a tattoo today. A group of her caretakers from the Willows decided to get the I love you symbol tattooed on their arms.
Because she has a hard time communicating, we do sign language with her, and the I love you is just something that we've kind of done from day one.
You know, wherever they end up, they'll always have this story to tell. That's probably the coolest thing about it all.
When Janice got the chance to check out her fresh ink, her smile said it all.
I love seeing that smile. When she was like looking at it in the mirror, that was everything. That was cool.
Before she left, Janice shared this message for her friends. I am blessed. I have loving children and awesome care from these beautiful women. I love them like family. I laugh every day. What more could you want?
It made me a little tearful. It's something that I feel like we've talked about for so long that we were waiting to happen. So now to see it and to see how excited she is and was able to go through with it, that was the best feeling.